Hello, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It's good to see all of you. And I thank God for this opportunity for me to be able to share His wisdom, meaning that the instruction plan He's giving to the world how to live in this world. And if you are not one of these people who are actually following the plan God had placed in this world for us to follow, well, you have a lot of stories you can talk about how your life is going. And basically, the way your life is moving is because you're going according either to your plan or God's plan. And that is simply, there's only two plans, yours or God. And the question is, do you really think that your plan is going to be better than God? Do you really think that? So, the purpose of these lessons, of these classes, is for you to understand there is a plan. There's your plan and there's God's plan. And also, of course, the world have their own plan as well, just like you do. So today we're going to cover what it means to honor your parents, what it means to honor your mother-in-law and older siblings. Okay, so it's very important to honor, and I'm going to give you two examples of what it looks like when you have to honor someone. Now, the first person that demonstrating this honor of also mother-in-law and fathers-in-laws. Okay, the in-laws, your mother, your in-laws, and older sibling as well. So I don't know if I mentioned it, but so let's look at parents first, and then we'll talk about in-laws. Now, in the Jewish world, in other society where they actually adapted the Jewish Torah, and other people call it the Quran and other names for it, the Bible. Remember, all this came from the Jewish culture, okay, where we learn about God. Now, in their Torah, the way you honor your parents is this. Now, your father, when your father walks in, if it's the first time you see your father during the day and you're in the house, you have to stand up and, in a way, kind of salute it. Now, we've seen this before. Where have we seen this? We've seen when we walk into a courtroom. What do? When a judge walk in, we stand up. When you look at these movies with the king and the queen, what do people do? They rise when the king and queen come, or they bow down. So again, it's a form of giving honor. And then this is where this came from. It came from the Bible. We stand when our parents walk into the room. Now, if you saw them, let's say you woke up and you home, you're sitting down, eating cereal, whatever the case may be, and then your parents were still sleeping, and then the father walks in, you have to stand up just to show respect. That's important. Another thing, another respect is if your father has a designated area he likes to sit to watch TV or to read, you are not allowed to sit in that area. You're not allowed. He has a certain places at the dinner table he sits, you are not allowed to sit there. Now, again, these are what God says how to honor your parents. Now, the other thing is you are not allowed to call your parents by their first name. If your father's name is Victor, John, or Joshua, you are not allowed to use his name when you are speaking, especially when you're around people. Let's say you have guests in the house and you're speaking about somebody, and you're talking, you can't use his name unless it is a general name, like a lot of people have a name of John. So it's not just one person. So many people have that name. So you can use that name. You can say that because eventually they know you're not speaking about their father. But if the father has a rare name, a unique name, you cannot use it, and that other person has it too. You cannot use it because it's a unique name. So if you have people or guests in the house and you're speaking, they're going to think you are referring to your father in the first name basis, and that is disrespectful. That is not honoring him because they're thinking you're calling your parents by their first name. Not allowed. Okay? It's not allowed. Another thing that you cannot do as well is correcting your parents in front of people. For example, let's say if your father got something wrong, you are not allowed to say, Dad, you know what you said was wrong. You cannot do that. You may approach it like this, Dad, remember in the Bible or in this section, so and so said this. You can approach it that way. But you cannot straight out and say, Dad, what you said is wrong. Not allowed. Again, that's disrespecting. You're not honoring them. Even if they got it right, even if what your father said is true, you are not allowed to say, oh, Dad, that is true what you said. You're right, Dad. It is true. Because what you're saying in front of people that I am agreeing with you, Dad. I'm letting you know that I'm high enough to say, to confirm what you're saying. You know, in other words, I'm kind of being a judge over you. What you are saying is to be right. Not allowed. You cannot do that. You cannot say that is correct. Okay? It's better just to remain silent. Now, later on, you can approach your father and speak on the side when everyone's gone. But again, you cannot speak to your parents as simple as you think it is. There are a tremendous amount of respect God has put into his word when it comes to respecting your parents. And many people take that very lightly, very, very lightly. And one of the major consequences of disrespecting your parents is death, early death. That's the ultimate price you will pay for disrespecting your parents. And you see how much emphasis God puts on you having to respect your parents. If your parents happen to be married and then one of them, you have to serve, both of them ask you to go get a glass of water, you have to get your father first. Your mother is second. Your father has to be first. Because in the Bible, it is said that the wife serves the husband. Now, if both of them needed clothing, your mother needed clothing and your father needed clothing, your mother comes first. Because why? In the Torah, in the Bible, it also says that the father has to provide the wife with clothing. Also, the question in the case of modesty when it comes to a woman. Modesty is very, very important. Very serious issue for a woman to be modest. So you see, there's a lot of information about how to respect your parents. You cannot argue in front of them, with other people. You cannot blur out whatever you like. The best way is to approach your parents is to just be quiet. Now, let's say your parents were divorced and then they went on their separate part. At this point, there is no order who you serve first, okay? There's no order who you serve first. It doesn't matter. You can serve the father first or the mother first because they are divorced. Now you say, well then, Victor, what if they remarried? If your father should remarry, you have to treat your stepmother and your stepfather exactly the way you would treat your biological father or your biological mother. Exactly the same way. There's no exception. Now, when they become divorced again, you do not have to even have anything to do with them anymore, okay? Because they are not your biological parents. So you don't have to, again, of course, it's always good manners to respect your elders, okay? Because why? The elders, your parents, are a reminder how to get to God. What does that mean, how to get to God? Because it's part of the 5 commandments, the first 5 commandments, the first five of the 10 commandments. The first 5 have to deal with man and God. The last 5 commandment has to deal with men and men. Okay? So the first 5 is man and God, and the last set of 5 has to do with men and men. That's what the 10 commandments are for. So you are obligated to honor your stepmothers as well and your stepfather equally, the same way as if they were your father or your mother. Now, once they have become divorced, they have dissolved the marriage, you are no longer attached to the step parents, it is over. Now, again, this is your parents. Let's say your mother was a prostitute. Guess what? You still have to honor her. Even if your mother was a prostitute, your father's a pimp, you have to honor her. I'm just showing you the worst case scenario. Now, if they're telling you something that is against God, you have no obligation to listen to them. You are not permitted to listen to them when they tell you to do something that contradicts God's words. You're not allowed, okay? But as far as honoring them, you have to, because why? They brought you into this world. They brought you here. If it wasn't for them, you would not be here. Not only that, if you trace who brought my father here, okay, his father. The father before that, his father, his grandfather, next father, going backwards and backward. until where do we lead up to? Adam and Eve, right? And then where did Adam and Eve come from? God. You see? So by going backward in your lineage, you're going right back to Adam and Eve, and you're going from Adam and Eve to God. You see? So that's why honoring your parents traces back to God. Now, as far again, as I said, the step parents, you have to honor them. Now let's go into mother-in-laws, father-in-law. Mother-in-law and father-in-law, you have to honor them as well. The same way you honor your father is the same way you honor your father-in-law and mother-in-law. So I know this is maybe difficult for a lot of you because why? Because society has taught us we are degenerating. We are, as you notice, our value or who we were are just deteriorating throughout the decades. We are becoming less and less and less and less. That's what's happening. We are de-evolving. We're from greatness, and what do I mean by that? If you look at Adam and Eve, they were from greatness until look what we are now. There was from Adam and Eve, people were living 1,000 years, and look where we are now. Look what we have become. People barely know who God is, what his rules are, what his instructions are. But these people knew God completely, everything. But today we know hardly nothing about God and what is expected of us because we are here. Each individual have a specific purpose, reason to be here. Only you and you alone can fulfill why you are here. No one else can take your place, okay? So you have to remember, you're here for a reason. If you are here, you are needed. God put you here because you are needed. There's nothing you God added extra or less into this creation. Everything is perfectly balanced for you to do or complete your purpose here. Now, we're going with the mother-in-law and father-in-law. These are major issues when it comes to husband and wife having mothers-in-laws and fathers-in-law. And I've heard quite a bit of stories when it comes to these situations, and it's not a nice situation. And I'm sure most of you have heard these stories yourself. But the bottom line, ladies and gentlemen, now, of course, if a mother-in-law or father-in-law is disrespectful to you, you don't have to sit and listen to them. Of course not. But you cannot retaliate and say something disrespect back to them. Absolutely not. You are not permitted to do that. Now, what you can do, if there is a mother-in-law or father-in-law that you do not get along with, you can keep your distance. Okay? You can keep your distance. There is no obligation for you to be in their surrounding or in their area or anything near to them. You don't have to be even keep in contact with them. But the fact is, you just simply do not disrespect them, even if they're disrespecting you. So understand that you have to create that boundary. They may not know it, but it is you that will be held accountable, not them. I mean, they're going to pay for what they do as well. But remember, you under the law, you under God's law, honoring these people. Okay? This is a commandment. It's not a suggestion. God is not suggesting for you to honor your mother-in-law. He's commending you to honor your mother and father-in-law. Okay? So this is not something you can escape and say, oh, it doesn't matter, it's not important, and you're not taking it seriously. Well, it will affect you. Now, the other thing I wanted to kind of go back to is the parents. Let's say you have parents who have unrealistic expectation of you. One of them, the best that I can give is that, let's say you have a parent that's in a nursing home and you put them in a nursing home because you cannot afford to keep them home with you. You just cannot because you have to go to work, all that. But as long as you have someone else taking care of them for you, for what you would do for them if you had the money, you would be doing it for them. Without someone else, that's fine because you can get someone to replace you to do the work for them, meaning that you put them in a nursing home because they can be taken care of by staff, something that you can't do. So that's fine because you are meeting their needs. But whatever the needs are, the parents are asking, you have to do it. They say, well, go give me a glass of water, you have to do it. Go to the store for me, you have to do it. You're honoring them. Whatever they are requesting of you, you have to do it as long as it's not against the law, and more importantly, against God's words, okay, more importantly. But other than that, you have to respect them. Same thing with mothers-in-laws, fathers-in-law. And again, people always, it seems like there's always issue with the in-laws. But again, if you have to look at it, They are part of your spouse family. Okay? So you have to understand that you have to show them respect. By you respecting them, you're actually honoring God because God is telling you what to do. And not only that, you're honoring God, but your spouse will also view you in a different light because say, wow, I know my parents don't like you, but yet you still show respect to my father and my mother. So you have to honor them. It is not a suggestion or request. It is a commandment that you must do so. Now, let's look at elders, like meaning that your older brother, your older sister, but more so your older brother and sister, you have to show them respect. Not at the same level as you do with your father and mother-in-law, but you still have to respect them as well. Okay, you have because they're older than you, so you have to treat them respect. And today, if you look at society, there's just like maybe a drop of respect left among children and some or most adults. Just a drop. People could walk by you and not say a single word hello or anything to you. And when you think about it, if someone can walk by you and not say or greet you and say good morning, hello, what kind of in-laws or what kind of people are these people? A simple thing, hello, you cannot say, that says a lot about a person. Okay? Just to say hello and not to be able to say that, that says a lot about that person. You need to consider that and think about that. So, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoy this because, again, this is an area I wanted to touch on because if I noticed that in the system, in the school system, even out in the street, out and about, there's very little respect, and especially with children today. You are obligated, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, as parents, you are commanded to teach your child to honor and respect elders. That is a commandment as a parent as well. So do not think, now it makes sense, doesn't it? Because if you are commanded to honor your parents, then it makes sense that you are commanded to make sure you teach that to your children. And if you did not, you are accountable for whatever they do. Because remember, if you did not teach those children those basic principles God has given you to do yourself, and then they do the wrong thing, you are 100% responsible for what they do as well. So let's say they do something or whatever you want to think about, they commit a crime or something, you also 100% responsible for that as well because you had a commandment to teach them. Because the Bible says, raise him in my ways. What do you mean raise him in my ways? God says, you provided the flesh for this child to come into the world, and I provided the soul that's inside this child. And I want this soul to learn my way so that way they will not perish. That way that child will not go to hell. And if you did not do that, and that child end up going to hell, it's 100% your fault. Absolutely. Even if, and now you say, well, maybe I'm not telling you the truth. How do I prove that? Well, let's look at kids today. Look how many kids whose parents did not discipline them. Look what has happened to them. They perish. They're either in the prison system, they're doing drugs, they're running the street, or dead. How did they end up that way? You didn't do your job as a parent. That's how they end up that way. You just simply did not do your job. And whose fault it is? It's your fault. You brought them into this world. You are 100% responsible to pass these instructions to your children. It's not optional. It's not a suggestion. It is a commandment because you decide to engage in the act and to bring a life, a soul into this world. You are 100% responsible. But now, if you did what you were supposed to do and that child go off the derrick, they go to the left, you are not responsible for what they do at this point because you did your job. You did the best possible job you could do with what you had. You did your best. You are not responsible. But if you did not, you're 100% responsible. I thank you for joining me. And I ask you, ladies and gentlemen, if you like these lessons, you are learning. And remember, more important, you have to apply this to your life. By applying this, you will see it to be true. And there's a tremendous amount of data we need to learn about this world to live in it. So by applying it, you're not going to forget it. And then you're able to pass this lesson to your own friends, family members, people who are close to you. Then you also will know what to do if you are in a certain situation. you know what you're supposed to do. That's the purpose of this lesson, to prepare you how to interact with this world, okay? Knowing that you made the right decision and not going to sleep or worrying whether or not I made the right decision for that day, okay? And there's nothing more terrible, I think, really, for anyone when you're struggling trying to make decisions and you're not sure if you made that right decision. And that's what the purpose of these lessons is, for you to learn how to make the right decision and be confident about that. So I thank you. God bless you. Share this video. Share the link with everybody you know. Just share this link. Let them start learning, because I'm telling you, there's going to be that day you're going to wish you had this information. But the problem is, information takes time to learn. Also, review these videos, okay? These lessons. Go over that. I'm telling you this much. If you review this video, you're going to find every time you listen to it again, you're going to find new message, new lesson within it. You didn't pick up the first time, the second time, or the 10th time. You're going to find something new. Thank you. God bless you. I'll see you next time.